Hi everybody and welcome back. Now in this lecture, let's create a dictionary of Python terms and definitions, because I think that would actually be helpful. So the Python terms are on the left and their means are on the right. So let's start off by creating our dictionary, and as you can see I've added in some comments, and you might notice as well that I'm back in my Sublime text editor, and that's because I don't need to get any input from a user's perspective. So Sublime, although it's a great editor, great for Python and great at running small Python programs, you can't give it any user input. So that's why I switched into idle for the last few lectures, but now I'm back in Sublime. Okay, so let's create our dictionary. And actually let's start off with a comment. Create a dictionary of terms. There we go. Okay, so terms equals, and as we said, open with curly brackets. And let's put in our first term, which is variable. I-A-B-L-E. Perfect. Variable. Close our single quotes. Colon. And its value. Represents or refers to a value stored in memory. Okay, perfect. Now, next. Let's add in, and we separate out our key and our value pairs by a comma, a string. So what is a string? And don't forget your single quotes like I have just done here. So we have string, colon, a sequence. And again, I've just forgotten my colons. Let me just do that before we go any further. A sequence of characters. And let's close that. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So now we have our dictionary with 2 keys and 2 values. One of the most frequent things that you'll do with a dictionary is to use a key to get its value. So let's take a look now at how we do this. The simplest way to retrieve a value from a dictionary is by accessing it with its key. To do this, you give the name of the dictionary and then place the key inside a set of square brackets. So as we saw previously, let's go print the name of our dictionary, terms, and the key that we want to retrieve the value for. So we use square brackets, single quote, variable. Okay, let's run this and see what we get. Represents or refers to a value stored in memory. Okay, so it's working. Something to remember here is that this process works only one way. Give a key, get a value. You cannot give a value and get a key. Now, it'll sometimes be necessary to start with an empty dictionary. If you try to get a value from a key that doesn't exist, you'll generate an error. So before you start to access a dictionary, either populated or empty, it's a good idea to check if a key exists before attempting to retrieve its value. You can do this using Python's in operator. Okay, so let's modify our program here. So we can leave our terms in place, just add in a couple of spaces, and now we'll go if. So let's think of a term that we don't have in our dictionary. So let's say float, as in a floating number. If float, as we know, a float is a number with a decimal point. So if float in terms, print, I know what a float is. So that's our dictionary telling us that it has it. Or else, print, I do not know what that is. Okay, so let's have a look here now. Just clean that up a little bit and let's run it again. Okay, so as we can see now, down the bottom left hand corner we have I do not know what that is. And then we have our variable, because we have our print line getting our variable here. Getting the meaning of the variable here. Apologies. So, as we do not have the key float in terms, we get the message, I do not know what that is. If it had been in there, we would have got the message, I know what a float is. We can use the in operator with dictionaries in much the same way as we did with lists. We type the value that we're checking for, followed by in, followed by the dictionary. This creates a condition. The condition is true if the key is in the dictionary, otherwise it's false. So if we are starting out with an empty dictionary, how do we get key value pairs into it? Okay, well let's take a look at that. First we create an empty dictionary. And that's what an empty dictionary looks like now. Terms equals curly brackets with nothing inside it. So our dictionary is empty. Then we add our key value pairs. So let's add terms, which is the name of our dictionary. And we're adding in variable. As you can see, single quotes, brackets. And a variable is the key. So we want to assign it the value represents or refers to a value stored in memory. Okay, perfect. What about adding new value key pairs to a dictionary? Well, just as we've seen, the process is the same as if we were starting out with an empty dictionary. So let's add in a new value that we haven't seen yet. Terms, square bracket, single quotes, integer, equals a whole number. Okay, there we go. And let's print out these terms. So print terms, which is the name of our dictionary, and we want to get variable, and then we want to print again, print terms integer, and let's run that and see what we get. There we go, bottom left, we have our output. So there is another way to retrieve a value from a dictionary, and that is to use Python's get method, and that's what we'll be looking at in the next lecture. So as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next lecture.